Right now, you have access to more comfort, more food, more entertainment, and more safety than any human who has ever lived. And somehow, you're still not happy. Depression rates are at an all-time high. Anxiety disorders affect over 300 million people worldwide. Loneliness has been declared a global epidemic by the World Health Organization. We have everything our ancestors could have ever dreamed of, and we are miserable. So here's the question nobody wants to answer. What if they were happier than us? Not in spite of their hard lives, because of them. For roughly 95% of human history, your ancestors were hunter-gatherers. No cities, no jobs, no mortgage. And according to every anthropologist who has actually lived among the last remaining groups on Earth, they worked about 4 to 5 hours a day. That's it. Anthropologist Marshall Sahlins studied hunter-gatherer societies in the 1960s and called them the original Affluent Society. Not because they had a lot, but because they wanted little, and what they needed, they got quickly. The rest of the day was rest, conversation, play, and music. But here's the twist. It wasn't paradise. A third of children died before age 5. Predators were real. Droughts killed entire groups. The happiness wasn't coming from safety or comfort. It was coming from something else entirely. Purpose. Every single day, your role was clear. Find food. Protect the group. Keep the fire alive. Your brain knew exactly what it needed to do. There was no gap between what you were supposed to be doing and what you were actually doing. Psychologists call this state flow. Hunter-gatherers lived in it constantly. Most modern humans spend their entire lives chasing it. Around 400 BC, the Greeks started noticing something. As Athens grew richer, its citizens grew more anxious. Philosophers had a word for what hunter-gatherers had naturally: eudaimonia, usually translated as happiness, but that's not quite right. It meant something closer to flourishing, living in alignment with your purpose. Aristotle argued that happiness wasn't a feeling. It was an activity. You couldn't pursue it directly. It was a byproduct of living well, of being useful, of being embedded in a community that needed you. The Stoics went further. Epictetus, who was born a slave, argued that happiness had nothing to do with what happened to you. It had everything to do with what you decided to care about. And here's what's remarkable. Epictetus owned nothing, was enslaved for decades, and by every account, was one of the most contented humans who ever lived. The twist? The Greeks who thought the most about happiness were surrounded by suffering, slavery, plague, and war. The modern humans who think the least about it are surrounded by abundance. Here's one nobody expects. Medieval peasants might have had something you don't. Their lives were brutal by every measurable standard. Bad harvests meant starvation. Disease could wipe out half a village overnight. Life expectancy hovered around 35 years. But psychologists who study meaning versus happiness have found something uncomfortable. Meaning and happiness are not the same thing, and meaning is more important. The medieval peasant knew exactly why he existed. He had a role in his village, a role in his family, a role in the cosmic order as he understood it. His suffering had a framework. It meant something. In 2013, researchers at Florida State University found that parenting makes people less happy but more meaningful. That volunteering lowers happiness in the moment but raises life satisfaction long-term. That the things that make life feel most worth living are almost never the things that make us feel good right now. The medieval peasant wasn't happy in the modern sense, but he was rarely lost. And being lost, psychologists now argue, is the defining psychological crisis of modern life. So what did ancient humans have that you don't? Not comfort, not safety, not time. They had clarity. They knew what they were for. They were embedded in groups small enough that every person mattered. They worked with their hands toward goals they could see and touch. They slept when it was dark. They ate when they were hungry. Their bodies and their lives were synchronized in a way that ours simply aren't. The modern world gave you everything except the things your brain was actually built to need. And the most unsettling part, you already know this. You feel it every time you put down your phone and can't remember why you picked it up. Every time you achieve something and feel nothing. Every time you're surrounded by people and feel completely alone. Your ancestors didn't have the word for what they had. They just lived it. Maybe that was the point.